65 with no plans to retire. How does Medicare play into the equation? Hi, I'm Margot Steinlage, president of Steinlage Insurance Agency, where we handle all things Medicare. Today I want to discuss 3 items. Is Medicare required at 65? How does the size of your employer determine your decision making? Are you working for a large employer, small firm, or maybe you're working for yourself as a solo practitioner? Lastly, I want to look at pitfalls to avoid when moving into Medicare or delaying Medicare. Is Medicare required at 65? The general rule here is yes, Medicare is required. If you delay Medicare, then you'll see late enrollment penalties and gaps in your health insurance coverage. If you or your spouse are working after 65, then the size of your employer offering you large group health coverage determines whether or not Medicare is required at 65. The magic number here is 20. 20 employees. Doesn't matter if they're full or part-time employees or if half of them are enrolled in the group health plan. If your employer has 20 or more full or part-time employees, then Medicare is optional. You can delay both Part A or Part B when you turn 65 and avoid lifelong lifetime penalties. You'll have a special election window when you decide to retire or come off of that active group health plan. If your employer or your spouse's employer has fewer than 20 employees, then Medicare is required under Medicare secondary payer rules. If you delay Medicare and you're on small group health insurance, and your employer has fewer than 20 employees, then you will see gaps in your health coverage and late enrollment penalties. What are some pitfalls to avoid when you are moving into Medicare? First is COBRA. COBRA is not deemed active group coverage. If you are turning 65 and you're already on COBRA, then you need to sign up for both Part A and Part B to avoid gaps in your health coverage. COBRA generally terminates upon your Medicare eligibility. If you are older than 65 and you are now retiring and your employer is offering you COBRA coverage, be wise. Enroll in Medicare as soon as possible to avoid gaps in your coverage and late enrollment penalties. I see this too often and too frequently. Individuals stay on COBRA and they see massive gaps in their health insurance coverage. Second pitfall. If you are on large group coverage with 20 or more employees and you decide to stay on that group coverage, if there's an HSA health savings account factored into your group health plan and you are contributing into that HSA, you need to be wise and avoid signing up for Part A hospital benefit. It's free, so it's enticing, but IRS does not allow you to contribute into an HSA anytime you're enrolled in Part A or Part B. Another pitfall is that your Part A benefit will have a 6-month retroactive look back from the date you submit your Part B and Part A paperwork. So you're ready to retire, you sign up for Part A and Part B to kick in. Medicare is looking 6 months prior to set your Part A effective date. I mention this because that Part A 6-month retroactive look back date will affect how much you can contribute into your HSA each year. This is where Steinlage Insurance Agency comes in and helps you coordinate that HSA contribution along with your Medicare paperwork and Medicare plan. The last pitfall is sometimes your HR fails to terminate your employer coverage. If this happens, Medicare still shows that employer coverage is the primary payer. This is called a coordination of care issue. Who's responsible? Your employer plan or Medicare? If this happens to you, you'll likely see bills stack up for claims. When this happens, our team jumps on and helps coordinate the care and contacts Medicare to remove that HR group health plan from your file. Again, at Steinlage, we help our clients through it all, whether it's with enrollment and initial decision making, or on the back end with benefits and coordination of care issues. Reach out to us today to get started. Let's do a quick recap of this video. We looked at what are the rules of Medicare enrollment at 65. Remember, the size of your employer is the determining factor. If you or your spouse are working after 65, if the employer offering you group coverage has 20 or more employees, then Medicare is optional. If it's fewer than 20, Medicare is required to avoid lifelong penalties and gaps in your health insurance coverage. Then we looked at the pitfalls to avoid. There were 3 of them. First, we covered COBRA. COBRA is not deemed active group coverage. Remember, Medicare is required anytime you move on to COBRA. Then we looked at that 6-month retroactive lookback for Medicare Part A hospital benefits. Anytime you're delaying Medicare at 65 and you're ready to move into Medicare because you're retiring and you sign up for Medicare, you'll see that 6-month retroactive lookback and the HSA contributions need to stop. Then we looked at coordination of care. How do we avoid that coordination of care issue with your group health plan and Medicare?